It's time we give back. Sow a seed and show someone where love's at. Even if you don't give a dime, give your heart and share your time. Help somebody else in life. Give back. Let's give back.
Hi, welcome to this episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform. I am your host, Hosea James Givan II. You may hear Joey kind of come out in this episode. I've never introduced myself as Joey before, but those that know me from back in the neighborhood, that have known me most of my life, know me as Joey. But I'm here with one of those people, John Johnson. We grew up together. We've been friends since we were 6 years old. John is a mental health advocate who is, man, I got to tell you, your role and what you're doing is so vital and so important in these times. And I'm just glad to know you're out there. You were just honored last night for the work that you do. And it's important to, again, showcase people like yourself who are doing the work, but also talk about the kinds of things that need to happen for our community so we can hopefully get past some of the mental health challenges that we face. Thank you for joining us, man.
Hey, I'm so glad to be here, Joey. I'll start off with that, but really, what you're doing and profiling folks that do work in the community is really good. So I'm just lucky and happy to be here. Let's go.
God's work, man. God's work. Let's talk about our childhood before we get into your thing,
okay?
Because I think it's important. As I talk to people about it throughout the course of this show, I've always said that I'm only trying to read all the projects that I've been involved with in terms of community, Nike swoosh, all the things that we've done, some of the things that we've done together. I'm trying to recreate our childhood for other people, man, because I think our childhood was special. The kind of people that were in our lives,
Absolutely.
The kind of spirit that was in the community. People were anxious and willing to get involved. Our first coach was Albie and Chris Middleton. Was it Albie and Chris Middleton?
Yes.
Oh no, Chris Williams.
Chris Williams.
Chris Williams or Chris Washington?
It was Chris.
Yeah, Chris. Yeah, but it was.
So yeah.
It was Mickey. It was Mickey and Chris.
Wow.
It was Mickey and Chris.
Okay.
It was Mickey and Chris, right?
We'll go with that.
Yeah. They were our bantam coach.
Yes.
Coaches, and but again, these guys were in high school at the time.
Yes. Yeah,
they were in high school at the time, and we didn't really. I couldn't appreciate I guess we were like 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
The fact that we had two coaches that were taking out their time on the weekends
Absolutely.
to practice with us and to go to games with us, man. And that again, I can't emphasize enough how important it was for me to have examples of men like that, young men, and then of course our fathers.
Yes.
Your father, Mr. Johnson. I don't know if and my father was a community servant.
Absolutely.
But your dad, he may be because he was behind the scenes and comfortable with that.
Very much so.
And did whatever he had to do behind the scenes
Absolutely.
to get things done.
Absolutely.
That's what I respect, because my father was out front, and he, so, but to do that without the recognition, without the true, I don't think people honestly knew. He drove us to every game, man. Every game for years.
And
for
Dad
years.
was not a basketball guy. He was a track guy.
That's right.
So I remember, one time our coaches didn't come to the game for whatever reason, and my dad had to coach.
That's right.
And he really didn't know
Right.
that. And I
Right.
remember I was like a player coach, and
Right.
and we won that game.
Right.
But Dad was someone who was incredible, humble spirit.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
very behind the scenes. And Dad was actually a world-class athlete. He was the first African-American track star at St. John's University. He was also the first scholarship recipient in track.
Are you serious?
This is stuff you don't know. This is he was also
wow.
Came in 4th in the Olympic trials in the 40s, and if he would have came in 3rd, he would have been went over there.
Wow.
So I can tell you exploits about his track
I remember
stuff.
in your basement all of his
trophies. Right.
All
and
the accolades.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So I remember seeing that, but again, I couldn't grasp the history and understand the magnitude of his history.
Right.
Because again, this guy, well, he actually wound up starting the St. Pascal's track program.
Yes, he did.
Which he ran.
Right. So we had, Dad, we must have had like 100 kids, literally 100 kids.
I was part of that.
Dad used to write a letter every week to all 100 kids and mail it. And it was about either practice or about what happened the week before. And he felt it was important that kids, young kids, get mail so they could see, wow, let me open the mail, and there would be, something about what they did or something. I thought that, again, didn't really notice or see, but was getting stuff through osmosis kind of thing through him. And your dad as well. And watching, you talked about role models, our fathers, which were key in our lives.
Yes.
And young men, we were 11, and we were coached by kids that were 14.
Yes.
So they had that spirit. So that whole St. Albans neighborhood, Hollis, growing up with the athletics and just the teen clubs and all that.
You remember
teen clubs,
absolutely, 100%.
And Joey's backyard was like Madison Square Givan, because he had the basketball court, and we used to have the barbecues there and all that.
Right.
So that, our childhood, and I say this very seriously, when I tell people that I've known folks for 55 years, they say, what? We have a chat of elementary school, St. Pascal's, right? There's like 25 of us that were in elementary school. But people say, what? I don't know people from, my work from 5 years ago. So that kind of community spirit that we had, and we grew up with that, and we're doing stuff like that in our lives right now,
Correct.
Yeah.
And so, one of the challenges that I find is, well, part of the mission is to help to resurrect that spirit. Right? When we were growing up, it kind of naturally was in the air. It was kind of in the air. There was so many movements going on. There was the Black Power movement, the peace movement, the women's rights movement, tail end of the civil rights movement. The Nation of Islam was doing their thing. We saw entrepreneurism through them. There's a lot of like positive energy and energy where people were willing to make changes about our society and do whatever it took, even if it meant coaching the kid, driving kids to school, going to a game to support kids like us. It's hard right now to kind of recreate that, because what was going on when we were, it was kind of a natural thing, it was organic. And today we need that.
Absolutely.
Because our kids are going buck wild, man.
Hey, listen, there's a whole thing, this social media thing and technology, have kids, in the house doing video games, just kind of focusing on something other than themselves or each other. I was a director of one of the directors of Boys and Girls Club, and literally you would see kids that are in the same classroom or that are even next to each other, texting each other. So that whole intimate thing that we had, looking each other in the eye, touching each other, that's part of the, I say, and I don't want to say downfall, but different. Because, I never want to be the guy that says, oh, when we were young, this, that, and the other. This is a new day. So we have to kind of go with the flow in certain ways, but we still have values that we need to instill in these kids. The fact that you have to look someone in the eye, the fact that you have to shake someone's hand,
Right.
you know, those things will never change.
Right.
But they are now experiencing something that's incredible. I mean, you know, you have 3-year-olds that could do stuff that, you know, 8-year-olds could do, right? So it's a different, yeah.
We have to take a public service announcement break,
Sure.
and we'll be right back.
Very cool.
Jason, let's go see your room.
That's not right.
How was it? Is it good?
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. Let 211 be your guiding light for help with food, healthcare, and other resources.
211, how can I help you?
Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211, get connected, get help.
Welcome back to this segment of Ignite, Empower, Transform. I am here with Mr. John Johnson, mental health advocate, legendary basketball player. I didn't even get into that in the first.
Legendary.
In the neighborhood. In the neighborhood. Yes, no question. No question.
That's it.
We came up during an incredible time. And what I often mention also is the Knicks were winning championships.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That
too.
was a part of the
Right.
creating the culture
Yeah,
and the
68,
excitement
72. Absolutely.
around basketball and sports. The Rucker tournament was still thriving when we were kids,
Yes.
where you would have professional athletes like Julius Erving and Nate Archibald,
Right. Walt Frazier came out.
just coming out and
Yeah.
just playing hoops in the summer in the park.
Yeah.
You know, we grew up in times where we would all go to O'Connor Park and shoot hoops. O'Connor
OCP.
Park was the park in our neighborhood. Up the block lived Mark Jackson. If we go up to Jamaica Park, another park down the block was Joey Simmons.
the
Run DMC.
and Russell.
Russell.
And then across the way was LL Cool J. He's a little younger than
from
us.
the block.
Right?
When you get closer to me, you look at the red, black, and green rock. Up the block was the
right.
LL Cool J.
Yes,
So
yeah.
you know, in our community growing up, we had some, and we were talking about athletes and entertainers, but we had some great men. You know,
absolutely.
that also lived on the block.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean-
your dad is a great man. I think my dad was a great man.
absolutely.
And we had many men like that.
Absolutely.
In the community.
I mean,
And-
just not to cut you off, but you know, and I guess a 2-mile radius, we had the first black fire chief, and that was Mr. Beekman.
Oh, that's right.
And we had the first
right.
black police commissioner was Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson. He was Gus Johnson, I think his first name.
Really?
Yes. So we
That I
had,
didn't know.
and then we had Mr. Laddie, who was Lindsay's bodyguard, who went everywhere with him. So we had prominent men that we did not
Let's
even
talk about
know.
who Lindsay was, because we're
Yeah,
talking
yes,
to
absolutely.
So Mayor Lindsay
Lindsay
was the mayor in the late '60s
Right.
in New York City, maybe late '60s, early '70s.
Uh-huh.
And one of our closest friends, father, Mark Laddie's father, one of our classmates, as he just mentioned, was that guy.
Yeah.
You know, with his top security guy.
Security. And
Yeah.
so we were growing up in a space where there were prominent black men that we didn't even know who they were until later on.
Right.
So we had, you talked in the last segment of that spirit of giving back, that spirit of community.
Right.
And so we had that. And, you know, trying to recreate that is something that's challenging because it's different times, you know, different times. But
one name we just absolutely must mention is Ernie Rilloff.
oh, please.
Who Ernie Ridloff was. So we grew up in a Roman Catholic parish called St. Pascal's, and I guess the head, there's a Monsignor who runs the parish, and then there's priests under the Monsignor. One of the priests under the Monsignor was Ernie Ridloff, Father Ernie Ridloff, who, I mean, he was the first one to explain to me. I remember this. I was in Miss Peterson's class.
Second grade.
There was never a more beautiful second grade teacher than Miss Peterson.
Please.
Am I kidding?
Please, she was absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, man.
And she actually left teaching and became a top model.
I would yes, that's
but
right.
Ernie Ridloff, legendary, not just in our community, but he drove around in a Volkswagen bus that was red. And so everybody knew he was coming. Everybody knew he would pack everybody in, driving kids to games, but also he was part of Rice High School. And he brought a lot of kids from our neighborhood to Rice High School in Manhattan. And so just a great guy. And he was really responsible for our teen program, right?
That's right.
And he did a lot of peer counseling, peer group.
That's right.
And was just very instrumental in my life because
Mine
it
too.
was his first parish, and he was 22 years old, white guy from Brooklyn, kind of tough guy. He was a priest, but he was
and had skills
and played ball.
Yeah.
So he was very relatable.
I remember those Long Island Press clip-ins where he dropped like 30, 40. It's like on a regular.
Yeah, and he could have been in the ABA and stuff like that, but he had a calling, you know. So anyway, great guy. Still in touch with him now, and and he did a lot. He became a referee.
Right.
You know, he became an assigner for PSAL, and there's still I think the assigner is in charge of the referees in Long Island. So yeah, very instrumental.
So he was the leader of the parish CYO league, and at the time that he was running things, we probably had like 8 teams, 6 to 8 teams in various divisions.
Yes.
Throughout the CYO league. So he would go out and recruit the volunteers, set up the time for our practices and. That level of coordination and commitment, you just don't see that today.
And also,
and he took us to Maryland, right? Didn't he
yes,
drive
he took
us
us
to Maryland
to play. I think that one of the things that he instilled in us and the coaches was about humility, but also, you know, we were learning life skills. It wasn't just about basketball, it was about how you acted on the court. I don't think any of us ever got a technical foul. Maybe Joey one time. No, but when
I can see that.
But no, we learned how to check ourselves. You know, although winning was important, it wasn't everything.
Right.
And those kind of values that he instilled in us about education and camaraderie and all those kind of things were really, really something that stuck with us forever.
No doubt.
You know?
We got to take another public service announcement break, and we'll be right back.
All right.
Dear moms and dads, what you have achieved here today is going to help us and our futures. It is why we are coming up on stage to collect your diplomas.
You know it's true.
Mom, we love you always.
Everything I do.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Welcome back to this final segment of Ignite, Empower, Transform. I'm here conversing with my old friend, and we've been going down memory lane. I haven't even gotten into I haven't even had a chance to get into what we really wanted to talk about was what you're doing right now. As we mentioned, I'm not sure if we mentioned, but you were honored last night.
I was
by
the National Association of Mental Illness, NAMI. And it's an organization that I've been affiliated with for the past 6 or 7 years. And it's the largest grassroots organization that's dealing with people, families and individuals that are dealing with loved ones or themselves that are dealing with mental health challenges. I always say mental health challenges. I don't like the word mental illness.
Right.
In fact, I had a big...
That's the word I used.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that, because even when you use the word illness, there's a stigma attached to that,
absolutely.
right? So I would say mental health challenges.
That's good. Yeah.
And but it's a really great organization. I've been part of a group, and I run groups called Sharing Hope. And the moniker is For Us, By Us, and About Us.
That's dope.
And I want to say no white people out, but you can't do that. But no, but they give me carte blanche to go into Black and brown communities and talk about things that we don't talk about.
Right.
Right. We don't talk about mental illness. We don't talk about mental health.
Right.
You know, remember we was put Uncle Henry upstairs, you know, when company came over, right?
Correct.
People would say the stigma.
Right.
You know, people would say, you know, I'll pray it away at churches and stuff like that. So we get into all of that and just give people an opportunity to talk, and it's no pressure, and it's really been taken off all over Queens and all over the city.
That's so fantastic, man. You know, those kinds of outreach efforts, how is it? So I know your purpose and your intent is so important, and I know what you're trying to accomplish is so important. But are you able to actually reach the people that need to be reached? That's the concern I have, because a lot of times, and we talked about this, Black men are not as open to be receptive to the support that they need if it's dealing with something emotional or psychological, or it could be chemistry, body chemistry, right?
Yeah, I definitely. I think that the discussion is being had now. Our celebrities are coming out now. I did a lot of work with Meta World Peace. We went into Queensbridge, Houses Pride and ran groups, so that was something. And of course, not to name drop, but DMC, who you know, I was diagnosed and lived with a diagnosis of bipolar, and it's funny. I always say live with as opposed to I am bipolar. No one ever says I am cancer or I am, you know. So that's not who I am. But you know, when people see me and see other people coming out, other men coming out and talking about it, they start to feel more comfortable and more like, wow, he's talking about that. He's talking about it.
And we're seeing athletes do the same thing.
Yes.
Kevin Love did it when he was at in Cleveland.
Right.
Like you said, Meta World Peace.
I mean, Mariah Carey came out.
Oh, really?
Bipolar. Alicia Keys lives with a diagnosis of depression.
Oh, I didn't know
so
that.
there's a lot. If you Google famous people with mental illness, and you'll see a bunch of folks successful, being able to negotiate and navigate. And so many stories I could tell, but one story I am going to tell is my brother, and I get emotional. I tell this story 1,000 times every time I speak. I was kind of comatose when I first had an episode, and this guy came over to my house every day. I wasn't talking. He came over during dinner time, but he just sat with me. I didn't talk for 3 days, and he just sat with me.
That's true.
And to this day, I thank him just for being there, and that's what's important.
That's true.
And through people who are living with mental health challenges need someone to be there. There's a lot of people there's more people that look like me who live with mental health challenges than that person that's on the street, that person who killed everybody, shot everybody up in a train.
Right.
And we need to change the look of mental illness, of mental health challenges, and I'm one of those people that are changing the look, you know, and that's important.
Yep, absolutely, 100%, man. You know, so that's an example of a true friend. He gave you an example of what true friendship is. But I could use an example too, and not briefly. I'm not going into the whole story. But I was up in Albany.
Please tell the story.
And we were in a car, and as we were passing, as we were in the car about to approach a red light, there was a sister that was driving, a black sister, and I'm in the passenger seat, and John is in the back seat. And so when she passed a group of men, that happened to be of white guys, they were beating her car as we were pounding the top of her car, and we stopped at a red light. I gave her my watch. I said, hold this for a second.
Yes.
And I went after those guys.
You went after.
And you were right there.
Right behind you.
You were right
right
there.
Behind
you. Were right there.
We
were right there.
We were honoring our sister.
Yes, 100%.
We were honoring our races, and you can't come out. And
100%.
It was those emotions that came out.
Yeah.
You didn't think twice about going. I didn't think twice about following you, right?
A half second, I was like, yo, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah, that's wow. Incredible. Yeah.
Hey, man, but I do want to thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Are there any, do you have any parting statement that you'd like to say to our audience?
Sure. I mean, one of the things I'm going to say is that you are not alone. We are not alone. That people are experiencing mental health challenges, struggles. Know that that when I speak, the first thing people say, "Oh, you're so successful." The second thing they say is, "Me too. My mother, my uncle, my father." So know that. And be able to walk in that, and don't be fearful.
All right. Thank you for that, man.
Definitely.
Thank you for all your wisdom.
Definitely.
And all that you're doing.
Thank you.
For real.
Thank you, too.
And thank you for joining us for this episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform. I was your host, Hosea James Givan II. And remember, if it's in your heart, do your part. Today's help equals tomorrow's hope. I love our youth. Power to the people.